This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone! Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. On this week's episode of Eat, Explore, Love the Podcast, we're chatting with Miss World Traveler Kerry Damiano. We chat about the importance of solo traveling around the world and the thrill of getting to share those experiences with others in the world. Make sure to go check out her series on YouTube. Link in the show descriptions. Hi, Kerry. It is so nice to meet you and see you. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
So, I know that in the intro gave a little bit of a background about you, but I would love to hear in your own words who is Kerry and what is the story that led you to this moment today?
Sure, that's a loaded question. You do realize, right?
Yes. Always a
Some
good
people will
place to
talk a half
start.
an hour if you ask them that question. Well, I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. I didn't actually grow up here. I grew up in North Idaho, about 100 miles south of the Canadian border. But I've been in Arizona for about 40 years. I am single, never married. And that is why I have traveled to 130 countries because while all my friends were home raising kids and taking them to soccer practice and saving for college, I was footloose and fancy free. So that has sort of colored my whole life in that I've gotten to just, sort of do what I want with my free time.
I love that. And I'm very much following in your footsteps that as I'm
Are you
seeing
good?
yes, as I'm seeing my friends start their families and things, I'm like, you know what, that's wonderful for you, but I'd much rather be on my own terms and travel as much as I can.
Yeah.
Um,
If it happens for you, wonderful. If it doesn't, then you're just out so busy living your life, having an amazing time that, you don't have time to miss it.
exactly. I love that. So I know that you spent most of your adult life traveling in 130 countries. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What inspired you? Because for me, it was reading books and watching movies that made me want to go and
Mhm.
travel. What was
Mhm.
that for you?
Well, interesting you say that because that is what inspired my mom. She
Okay.
was a reader very early on, and so she wanted to travel. And it was really her interest that got me interested. So she would take us all over. When I was growing up, my brother and sister and I were on the swim team and the track team and the volleyball team, and some of those things. So she took us all over while my dad was working. And I had this woman to watch that was unafraid to go
Mm.
by herself, even with little kids. And so I just apparently soaked that up, not even realizing that I was becoming quite adventuresome. And then when it was sort of time to branch out on my own, I never felt any fear. So
Mm.
it's a little bit hard for me to realize that some women are afraid of that because I
Mm.
didn't grow up that way.
Do you try to use, like you said, so much of me traveling is now making my friends, a lot of them saying, oh, Ash, I would love to go on a trip with you and do that. Have you found that you've gotten some of your friends to go and become more adventurous and I guess paying it forward from what your mom was able to do for you?
I think so. I typically do travel by myself, but I talk to a lot of women about it and encourage them to do it. And one of the things I say is to figure out what is making you afraid. Are
Mm.
you afraid of being alone? Are you afraid you can't afford it because there's a budget involved? Are you afraid that when you get there you won't have anyone to share it with and it won't be as much fun? Is it not safe? These are questions that I think run around women's heads that maybe that's what keeps them from going. And I think if you can identify what that thing is that stops you from going, then you can figure out how to work around it.
What do you think is so empowering about solo traveling for you? Because I'm trying to figure out why it empowers me so much. So I'm asking for a friend.
Well, I think there's a couple things. One is when you realize that you can figure it out on your own. And as you know, Ashley, if you've traveled, there's a lot of figuring things out. Where am I going to stay? What am I going to do? How long am I going to spend in a certain place? All of those things. And then when you get there, where do I go and how do I get there? And, some of those kind of things. And so once you figure that out, you get this extra boost of confidence. And you're like, okay, well, conquered that, what's next? And so I think the more you do it, the more confident you become that nothing's too hard for you to do. So I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things. Another thing is I think it's your continuing education. You're
Mm.
always learning. When you go someplace new, you're learning about history and culture and how other people do things and trying new foods and new things that you haven't done before. And so it's this um, uh, implanting of new information and stimulus that I think makes you more passionate and more excited to want to do it again.
For you, I know for me, as I've traveled, I had like a bucket list in my head from based on like I wanted to do a Sound of Music tour in Austria. I knew that that was a big thing
That
I
sounds like
wanted
so
to
much
do.
fun.
Yes, it was. I loved it. And I knew to your point, certain historical landmarks I wanted to be able to go and see. And there's empowerment in and of itself when you're traveling solo, but then when you're marking things off of a bucket list, it's just
Yes.
another level. Can you talk us through some bucket list items that you had that you were able to kind of check off that list, so to speak?
Hmm. Well, quite a few of them, and some of them had to do with places, locations in particular. Some had to do with specific things. So, for example, Tikal in Guatemala. That was just a place that I really wanted to see, and it was a bit of a headache to get there. But I planned a whole trip around it, and then I did it, and it was so hot and humid, and it was like a hardship trip. But afterwards, I'm like, you know, cross that off, did it,
Mhm.
conquered it, been there and can say I've done it.
Yeah. How do you make sure that you're living in the moment and not just when those things are happening? Because I find that that's my biggest struggle of I'll take videos and things so I can share because I know so many people were relying on me to be able to have that experience that I've been talking about for years, and then to finally show them that I did it, that I forget to kind of settle in,
Mhm.
slow down, live in the moment. So how do you ensure that you're doing that for yourself?
Well, actually, that is a very good point. You and I are from a different generation.
Yeah.
I did not grow up, with cell phones and being able to take video at any moment. So, most of my trips, I don't have good pictures. I was never
Mm,
a big photographer. And
yeah.
so I brought a camera and it stayed in my purse most of the time. So I don't have a lot of good photos from earlier trips since I've been doing this for over 40 years. Um, so now I force myself to do it. And obviously, I need content for Ms. World Traveler, but it's not the whole time.
Mm,
It's not seeing what I'm seeing through the screen. It's I
yeah.
take it to say I've been there, and then the rest of the time I'm really trying to, again, just let it wash over me. Because I think, and you probably know this, that when you go somewhere, it's not just about what you see; it's what you feel,
Mm,
what you experience, and letting that just come in your eyes, your ears, the smells and sights and all of those things that make it more than just what you see on your screen.
yeah. You mentioned Miss World Traveler, so I want to get into that whole experience. Can you explain to myself and the listeners what it means to be Miss World Traveler and what
Mhm.
all that entails?
Uh-huh. Well, it is a summary of my whole life. It's a self-proclaimed title, but part of what I've done over the last 40 years, I've been involved in pageantry. And so that's where the sash comes from. It's a bit of an homage to my years in pageantry, and also I have quite a community of people. So part of that was including them in my journey, but also it wasn't something I set out to do. It was like one day the scales came off my eyes and I went, oh, this is something that I can do because I've been doing it, and now I'm just going to take people along with me. So basically, Ms. World Traveler it's a person, but it's also a web series. And so on YouTube, we do these videos. I go to a place, and we try to inspire women to travel. So we are, excuse me, I do have a few allergies, so my nose runs a little bit. Um, we try and inspire women to travel. So we feature women artists, designers, entrepreneurs in these different places that we go, hoping that you'll want to go there, you'll want to shop local, and you'll feel like you know somebody. You know somebody's story. And that's always been a passion of mine. So putting it all together in Ms. World Traveler was just something I have been doing and wanted to do. Now it's formalized.
So how do you do all the research in finding these incredible women around the world that are, able to be entrepreneurs in this way that you're showcasing?
Sure. Well, one, I do a lot of research before I go because I give myself 2 days to shop a whole city, write a script, schedule everything, get the shops. And then my niece comes into town. She does all of the background shots and the editing and the social media, all of that. And we have 1 day to film, and then we move on to the next place. So it happens very, very fast, which just means I have to do a lot of research ahead of time.
Mm.
But I don't contact anyone, and the reason for that is I have to go in and I have to see it.
Mhm.
You look and see there's a whole bunch of great shops, but then I go in and go, it's not quite right. There's something that's not right about it. Maybe the person's not right. The lighting's not right. There's something about it that isn't right. So I have to go in and see it. And that makes things take a little bit longer. But that's okay. I feel like we get better content when I walk in, I go, oh, this is it. This is what I was looking for. And you probably know this when you travel, when you go somewhere and you're like, this is it. This is what I
Yeah.
was hoping for.
Mhm.
This speaks to me.
Are there anything, being that you go to all these different shops and you put a lot of care into all the content that you're creating? I always collect shot glasses everywhere that I go,
Oh,
and people just hand me shot glasses, and I'm
yeah.
very particular about the type of shot glass now that I want to collect from each town or city that I go to. Do you have a collector's anything that you collect to make sure to remember your trips?
Yes, I do. And I started it sort of by accident. It was, what year was it? Gosh, oh boy, I can't even remember, but I bought a little, like a perfume bottle, an empty one, and it was easy to get home, easy to wrap up and roll in my clothes so that I could get it home. And I thought, okay, well could be something that would be easy. And so I have quite a nice collection of perfume bottles, or just little bottles, little jars, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And each one has a story, as you know from your shot glasses, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite shot glass that you found?
I guess I always think it's ridiculous when people say, oh, well, it's like picking my favorite child. I'm like, Mom, Dad, you have a favorite child. Like, even then, you can pick your favorite. That's ridiculous. And it's not even, I know it's not me. I know I'm not the favorite child. So it's just all silly, just to be honest. But I know what they mean, in that it's hard for me to say what my favorite is, and that each one signifies something different. They're also all in a storage unit right now, so I haven't
Oh,
looked at them in a really long time, but Probably my Verona one because I lived in Verona for a period of time and it holds a special
Did
place in
you?
my heart with that community. Would probably
Wow.
be that if I had to pick one. Do you
What
have
took
one that's
you
your
to Verona?
I was getting my dual citizenship, which
Really?
didn't come to absolute fruition just yet, but I was living there for a period of time in an attempt to get that. But I'm going to throw your question that you gave me right back at you. What's your favorite little collector perfume bottle that you brought back?
I wouldn't say that I have a favorite bottle. I have favorite places.
Mm,
And again, yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite because different places have different things that speak
yep.
to you, as you know. But I would say for the friendliness of the people, you just can't beat New Zealand and Australia.
Okay.
So they love Americans. And so it's really nice to go somewhere where they're just excited to see you and want to invite you to their house for dinner.
Yep. Yep. It's a very different atmosphere. I feel like most places in the world are getting really sick and tired of us Americans infiltrating everywhere.
Right, right.
But
Well, a lot of it's about too the economic, the economy that we bring with us. And this is one of the things I say when people say, "Well, isn't it hard to go to some place that's really, really poor?" Yes, it is. Except that I feel like I'm doing a duty when I stay in their hotels and I shop in their stores and I hire their tour guides. And, I'm contributing economically to help their lives be better. And so that soothes a little bit the sting of going someplace that, we rich Americans, we look like we're so rich. And we are in comparison.
yeah, yeah. I That's also something beautiful that I love that a lot of my family members don't travel the same way that you and I have been fortunate enough where we're actually staying. I've stayed in places for a pretty long period of time, so I get to
Do
know
you?
the
Okay.
locals, I get to know the culture really well, and it's a
Mm,
totally different experience versus just being a tourist someplace by actually
yes,
planting
absolutely.
yourself someplace for a period of time. And I think it's really transformed me in how I look at
Mm,
America, even in my involvement of politics for the past election season.
mhm.
Has traveling shaped you as a person and maybe perhaps brought out pieces of you that you weren't expecting?
I don't know about pieces I wasn't expecting, but I think it gives you a much more global perspective on things. So that one, I appreciate more what I have at home, like
Mm.
beautiful grocery stores or nice toilets that work, or
Yes.
just things that we take for granted. Nice traffic laws that people, for the most part, obey. There's some
Yeah.
places you go that, well, it's just maybe there's a traffic law, but nobody obeys it. So,
Yeah.
have you ever been to India?
No, I have not. And I'm
Well, that's a
hesitant to
place there
go.
that, there might be 6 lanes across, but there's 18 cars lined up. So nobody's in a lane. It's just, the traffic laws are a suggestion only. So
Yeah.
just little things that when you go somewhere and you see how people are living different, it makes you appreciate what you have at home. But it also gives you this global perspective that not everybody does things the way we do, and
Mm.
that's okay,
Yep.
right? You're again, it's about learning something new.
Yep. I love that. And I, I was thinking before about India, and I want to make sure I clarify my statement of really when I have celiac, so I have food allergies I have to be aware of, and
Okay.
that is the reason it's kept me from India. But
Mm,
a lot of people I feel like would have assumed I would have paused to go other places because of safety issues. But I've been to a lot of countries that would be considered quote unquote unsafe for an American, and usually most of the time I feel pretty okay, especially as a single female, 5'2", 120 pounds on a bad day, walking around. What are you said that you speak to a lot of women about their fears. A lot of it's about safety. Do you have any safety tips for solo traveling that might be helpful?
hmm. Well, one of them is about doing your research so
Mm,
that you know what areas of the place that you're going are not going to be the right places for you to go. Sometimes it's accidental. You end up in an area and you went, oh, how did I get here, right? Um, but another thing I do, and this is probably because I've been traveling so long that my time is so precious. I'm typically there for a very short amount of time, so I hire private guides. When I was younger, uh, and I was worried about saving money all the time, as a lot of people are. I took group tours, and there's nothing wrong with those. I did those for a long, long time, but you waste a lot of time on a group tour waiting for everybody to show up, and the bathroom time built in for 40 people instead of one person. Just things like that make things a little bit slower going. So I like to hire private guides. So, for example, I have a trip coming up over Thanksgiving that's to Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Sumatra, and Vietnam.
Okay.
And I've hired private guides in every one of those places. Some places I'm just there for a day. So I have to see as much as possible in a very short period of time. And I only want to see the things I want to see. There's some things, okay, seen that, or it's not my interest. I don't want to spend time doing that. So not only does it give me a more targeted approach, it makes me feel safe that I'm with someone who's going to make sure we're not going to the wrong places, but also who speaks the language. There's just a number of things about that that make me feel safer.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it is tricky with being in group tours, especially if you get the rotten luck of being with a tour that a group that just not on the same page as you in a multitude of different ways, and it makes for a very tumultuous couple of hours that you're stuck with these folks. So
Yeah.
as soon
Now,
as
do
I'm
you
able
ever
to
take
have the means to
tours?
do it, I definitely
Do you
like
ever take
that
tours, or
mode.
are you a person who likes to just do it on your own?
I like to take a tour first, and then based on what happens in that tour, then finish off what I couldn't do in the
Yeah.
group on my own.
Good.
Yeah. Which
Good.
also involves a lot of research.
It does. It does. But it's kind of the best of both worlds, isn't it?
Mm. Yes. I always say make sure you leave room for magic. So you plan one thing a day and then leave the rest of your day free to do whatever you want. But
Love that.
I also think there's value in keeping yourself moving and busy, which seems to be your mode of operation. But how do you
Mhm.
keep your stamina going? Because I have a very hard time with my energy levels, especially when you're traveling to different time zones. How do you keep yourself healthy and moving constantly? How do you do it?
Well, I think just innately, I'm a pretty highly energetic person, but I also make sure that I get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm not burning the candle at both ends. And when I'm tired, I will rest. And that's something I've learned as I've gotten older too. That if I need to sit down in a park and read for an hour just to give my back a rest and my feet a rest, or, just it's okay. Just because you're here in a foreign place and you have a short amount of time, you don't have to be running, 400 miles an hour the whole time. So it's knowing when you need to, and then giving yourself that sort of permission to just slow down and be okay with it.
What has been the most rewarding part of doing Miss World Traveler and providing content for those that are living vicariously through you?
Well, it might surprise you that it's actually been working with my niece.
Mm,
Working with family can be a challenge. And I have worked with family before. When I first started my career, I worked for my dad for a
mm.
number of years. And there's ups and there's downs, pros and cons to that. But now I'm working with my niece, and we're having a great time. I'm loving it. I love feeling responsible that I'm providing, a good career, a good path for her, but also taking her to some of these amazing places that, everyone should see, but not everybody gets to.
Yeah.
So if you get to go on somebody else's dime, there's something really
Yes.
pretty nice about that, right?
Yes. My new travel buddy is becoming my aunt, and she's
Yes.
also coincidentally my godmother. So we make it these special godmother, goddaughter trips. But it's,
So you can relate to the
yes.
the wonderful parts of it, and sometimes there's challenges.
Yes, and I think it's the most important part is always learning the person. or get being real with other people's personalities and what's maybe the best. Who's the planner and who's the follower? And
Yes.
sometimes, yeah, it's always nice to go with my aunt because I usually am always the planner and she's a big planner. So I just let her go with it. And I follow her lead and I feel like I can actually relax. And she
Yes.
reminds me it's
Yes.
important to indulge in life's opportunities. So she makes sure
Right.
that I live life to the fullest. And I'm sure you provide that for your niece as well.
Well, I hope so. But when you say about being able to relax and just to follow along, I've heard that called turning your brain off.
Yes.
And there is kind of a mode that you get to, like if someone else is taking control, if you go with a guide, in a way you can kind of turn your brain off. And it's nice once in a while to be able to do that, especially if you're supposedly on vacation.
Yeah.
Which, are we ever? If you're getting content, are you ever on
Yeah. Yeah.
vacation?
Yeah.
But if you are, that sense of you don't have to figure everything out, and
Mhm.
that's nice once in a while.
Yeah. It is. It's a beautiful thing to just chill out and relax and to be able to go with the flow. It's something I have to work really hard on, and being with people that are respectful of your wants and desires and allowing you to be able to do that is a really wonderful thing. So,
Yeah,
I'm sure with your niece,
rare.
she's very appreciative, and I'm sure you love having her to balance you out when needed as well. So that's a nice
Yes,
thing to have.
yes, and it has truly helped me because I wasn't on social media before this.
Yeah.
Every time I tried to think about it, it was like, yuck, I don't want to do it. Even though I knew that I needed to do it for my business, it wasn't something I wanted to do, and it kind of passed me by.
Yeah.
And so, one, you have to have the desire, but two, you have to have a little bit of technical know-how.
Yeah.
And so, uh, if you've grown up with it, it seems pretty simple. But if you haven't, then it's just like, oh, this is hurdle that you have to get through. So by bringing on my niece, who's a lot younger, it was like it opened up this door to be
Mhm.
able to do social media. And now I'm enjoying it, partly because I only do part of it. She does all of the scheduling and the figuring it out and all of that. I just, write up some things. so I don't have to do all the nitty gritty.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Carrie, I've taken up so much of your time. I always end every episode with the same rapid fire questions. If
Okay,
it's okay if you would indulge me in that.
sure. Let's give it a go.
It's in the Eat, Explore, Love vein. So my first question is, in your opinion, of all the places that you've traveled to, what's the city with the best food?
Paris.
Okay, I
That was
like that.
easy.
When you go on vacation, do you like a vacation that requires you to relax or be active?
Be active. That was
I'm
easy
not
too.
surprised.
I want to go, go, go. I'll rest when I get home.
Yep. And where is the city that you learned the most about yourself?
Ooh, London, because I lived there back when I was in my 20s. And that was where I truly cut the umbilical cord from my parents. And, they were just so far away, and we didn't have cell phones or even email in those days. And so I was cut off. And
Yeah.
so I truly had to, go through the process of adulting on my own.
London is my same answer as well, and no one else has given that answer, so here we are, we're
So why?
kindred
Why
spirits.
for you?
It was my first time that I was traveling alone, and it was my first abroad trip. I was studying abroad for 1 month, and I I'm not really great at meeting friends or making friends and putting myself out there in that way. So I spent most of the time by myself. And it was where I learned traveling alone is not so horrible. And I learned a lot about myself and who I want to be, and made a lot of life goals and plans in that month in London. So
Oh,
I've
wonderful.
gone back several times, and I always feel at home there. It's even though
Mhm.
I'm from New York, London
Do, do,
feels more home.
do you have a particular area you like to stay? Only because I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm usually in the theater district because I'm going to theater all the time.
Yes, love
So,
it.
near
Love it. The
Piccadilly
West
Circus, that area, yeah.
End. Love it.
I remember when we stayed in a hotel with our study abroad, and we were right by Tottenham Court, which I don't know how well you know theater, but I did the musical Cats in high school. And
Did you?
Yeah, and one big line was that Grisabella, the cat that sings memories, lived
Yes.
on Tottenham Court. So I would sing that song over and over again every time I would go nearby Tottenham Court. But yeah,
You were
it's
inspired.
yes, exactly.
Wonderful.
But my last question for you is, where can people find you and follow all of your adventures and maybe
Well,
get inspired by you to do their own copy of your
sure.
travels?
Sure. We're on YouTube. So it's YouTube Ms. World Traveler, Ms. World Traveler. And then
Perfect.
I'm also on Instagram, Kerry Ms. World Traveler. And that's Kerry, Kerry Ms. World Traveler. We're also on Facebook under Ms. World Traveler. So lots of places to find us.
Amazing. And we'll make sure to put the links in the description for the podcast episode so people
Thank
have
you.
an easy time
Thank you.
finding you.
Appreciate it.
Carrie, it was an amazing opportunity to get to chat with you. Thank you so much for coming on the
Oh,
podcast and
you're
hope to speak with you
welcome.
soon.
Okay. Wonderful. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on eatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mienka.